Hi, welcome to another episode of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Bill Sutton.
And I'm Jason Sutton.
And we get some fun things to talk about today. I want to start off with what I think is going to be a major business story. And it's the fact that the University of South Florida sold their marketing rights, their multimedia rights, to the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I think it's a really, really good move, and I'm thinking we're going to see more and more of this in the future. Because what you have is you have a school like the University of South Florida, which is not a Power 5 school, which doesn't get the attention that it would from a national media rights partner. Like, for example, our particular school is in a grouping with the University of Florida, Florida State, University of Georgia, University of Miami, Central Florida, South Florida, and Troy. And that's not a really even kind of a match, and you could see where the emphasis is going to be. If you own the multimedia rights to all those schools, you know where you're going to make your money. You're going to make your money at the Power 5 schools.
Clearly.
So the talent is also going to be working at the Power 5 schools, and all the attention is going to be at the Power 5 schools. So what this does is it puts us in the cooperation with the Lightning, where the Lightning, USF is a local regional buy at best. The Lightning have local regional expertise. The Lightning have sold out all of their inventory, and merging with USF makes the Lightning and USF a 12-month property. It makes it an indoor and an outdoor property, and it lets the Lightning take some of their staff and give them an opportunity to make some more money, as well as to promote some people to take on more responsibility. So I think it's a huge win-win situation. And I would be an advocate that if I was a small school like an Elon or somebody, and I had I had a minor league baseball team in my market, I might consider the same thing. You already have the talent. Let the talent go to work for you. The talent doesn't work 12 months a year in minor league baseball. Let them figure something out. But that's my big news of the day on the business side. I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be a great partnership for the Lightning and for USF, and I'd like to see what happens.
It's a good test case, too. I mean, because USF, much like the school I went to, UCF, it seems like they bubble up from time to time.
Yeah.
Like they'll get a quarterback or the right coach for a 4-year span, and all of a sudden they bubble up, and it looks like they're going to maybe be able to compete, but then they end up falling back down to not obscurity by any stretch.
Not obscurity, but you just need somebody that can really help you get to the next level. And I think the Lightning, because of their excellence on the business side, is really positioned in a great spot to really be able to help USF become financially stable and move the needle ahead. And so I think good things are on the horizon.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
It's a very exciting time for Tampa, Florida.
We just went through the first round of the NBA playoffs. What'd you think?
Well, outside of the Warriors, I don't really know that I'm all that impressed with anybody. I mean, I love what Milwaukee did. Mm-hmm. But they beat the team that everybody said was going to Toronto.
Yep. Who
everybody thought was going to be the Cavs' biggest rivalry, the team that could knock the Cavs off. On a personal note, I didn't have a lot of faith in the Bulls.
Jimmy Butler was unconscious yesterday.
Unconscious.
He was Michael Jordan-esque is the only way I could describe it. He played really, really well.
His teammate Dwayne Wade called him LeBron James-esque.
Okay, well, we're both on the same page. He played a hell of a game.
Right, and as the Celtics pointed out, and as we've seen over the years, like when he plays, they said you're going to get TV Rondo.
Yeah.
And TV Rondo is not the same Rondo that you get on a night-to-night basis, which is definitely a knock against him as a player. But
TV Rondo's who you want to have.
And especially TV Rondo against his old team.
Yep. In the Garden.
In the Garden. On national television, on a national stage, on TV all the time. That's a different Rondo.
Well, I got a good look at James Harden yesterday. And he's played really, really well. I think what I took away from it was he leads with his arm on every play. I mean, he continually pushes off. He's an offensive foul every play, if you want to call it.
And he's a big fan of the Euro step, which I guess has just become acceptable at this point. But I mean, for a long time, that was traveling. I know LeBron, whether you call it the crab dribble, the Euro step, you have all these different things that have essentially been traveling in the past, and all of a sudden have just become part of the game, especially if you're a superstar.
Well, the difference, since I saw him and Russell Westbrook head-to-head, is that both teams run through those two players. But Houston definitely had a lot more options running the ball through Harden. I mean, Harden had a really good game, played really, really well, outplayed Westbrook, no question. But he's also got more pieces, and when you try and guard a player like Harden, with some of the people what they have, you're not going to be effective guarding him. He's going to shoot or go to the hoop, and then when he doesn't, he dishes off. So it was really one-sided yesterday. So I will concede that. I'll still say Westbrook was the MVP. I'll say Harden was the better player yesterday.
I mean, Daryl Morey's done an amazing job of putting that team together. I mean, Mike D'Antonio, those are the perfect players for his system.
Perfect system for that team.
You know, you've got your stretch four and Ryan Anderson.
Yep.
You've got all these guys that can actually knock down three-pointers.
You took Dwight Howard out of that system.
And
put another player in that could play in that system. It's made a huge difference.
And Eric Gordon has stayed healthy. Had a great year. The Lou Williams pickup was incredible. And I know a lot of the people in the Harden camp, they keep saying that, well, if they try to argue that if Harden is the best player, that the Thunder have the next three. And I can tell you, as someone that watched Oladipo, I enjoy Oladipo a lot. And maybe if you were drafting for a future team, you might take him over a 31-year-old Lou Williams, and you might take him over an injury career riddled Eric Gordon. But right now, both those players are better than he is.
Oh, no doubt.
And again,
I enjoyed the pick that Steven Adams laid out, though.
Right. And again, I love Steven Adams. I think he's fun to watch play. He's fantastic in interviews. He's got that cool, laid-back Australian personality. But people, I think, overrate him a little bit. I think he is what he is. I think he's Marcin Gortat.
He's better than Marcin Gortat.
I mean, he's a 12-7 guy. Like he plays hard. He can be your enforcer. He's going to rebound. Yeah. But I don't think his ceiling is that much higher than that.
No.
And I think people are talking about him after last year's playoffs that he's one of the best centers in all of basketball. And partially is because
there's very few centers in
basketball, and even the guys that can play center don't want to be called centers.
That's right, they don't want to be it. That's exactly
so Anthony
right.
Davis is a 4, not a center. Karl Anthony Towns is a 4, not a center. So I mean, you have that, and I think you can't help but when you watch Steven Adams in the interview with his mustache and his goofy hair, and his tattoos and his Australian accent and the crazy stories he tells about his brothers.
Yeah.
I think, personality plays a big part in our perception of people. And I feel like, and again, I would love to have Steven Adams on my team, but I don't think he can be one of the 3 best players on a championship team. I think he can be a starter on a championship team.
Absolutely, he can be a starter.
But I don't know if he can't be, your one, he can't be your B or your C, in my opinion.
No.
Maybe if things changed, he can be the 3rd best player on a team, but you need somebody else on that team.
Yeah, you need somebody to take some of the pressure off of Westbrook, and they don't have that player.
No.
There's not if Westbrook is 1A, they have 1C, 1D, and 1E, and 1F. They don't have 1B.
No.
So that's where they are.
And again, Oladipo, he's a try-hard. He's going to give you 100% effort 100% of the time. He's not quite like Westbrook in terms of that intensity, but he's got a lot of intensity. But he can't knock down a consistent jumper. He couldn't at Indiana. He couldn't in his couple years at Orlando. He's probably never going to be that guy.
No. I was impressed with the way that the NBA Brotherhood supported Isaiah Thomas.
Very much so.
They all had nice things to say and wished him well, and they made it a priority. It wasn't like, oh, by the way, somebody didn't say, what do you think about Isaiah Thomas? It was like they were starting their press conference with, we want to shout out to Isaiah Thomas. We feel for him. And I was impressed with that. That shows that the Players Association is a group of people that care about each other, and I like that.
Without a doubt. I still, when I look at the East, I just don't see anybody. I mean, the Pacers took, I know they could say the Cavs are going to turn it on when they need to, but I'm not sure what they have to turn on. I feel like LeBron's been going pretty,
I still think the Celtics, if they play the Cavs, will be a good game.
If they beat the Bulls.
If they beat the Bulls. I mean, if Jimmy Butler has 5 or 6 games like that, I don't see how they're going to stop him because he was just unconscious.
No, and you might get a Super Wade performance at some point.
You might.
You might get a classic Dwayne Wade.
Yeah, you never
He's still
know.
capable.
He wants to prove a point. He wants to prove the doubters wrong. So, an issue for him.
And Milwaukee looked pretty dominant against Toronto, and Toronto was supposed to be the team. And then you got the Wizards.
Yeah, and John Wall looked amazing yesterday. The Greek Freak looked amazing. So it's fun. It's fun basketball to watch yesterday. Yeah, I really liked it.
I think this is the most talent spread across the league I've seen in a really long time. Like there's somebody to watch on a bunch of different teams that you want to tune in for.
So I don't know if you're aware of this or not. Let me throw this at you. Let's stay on basketball. Let's go to college basketball.
Okay.
Starting in 2019-20, the 2019-20 season.
Okay.
The NCAA will begin distributing revenue based upon academic performance in addition to how many games you win.
That is interesting.
That is, that's the classic good intention with a whole lot of trouble.
Right.
Because what's going to happen is scandals like North Carolina, because if you have to keep somebody eligible, that's one thing. But if you're going to get paid to make sure they're eligible and they do well, you're not going to challenge them, are you?
No.
You're going to give them something they can excel in without having to do too much effort, and that's a slippery slope. So while I think the NCAA is trying to do something right here, I don't think it's right. I think you're just asking for trouble.
I know it's a tough one because my entire life I've always, since I've been aware of the NCAA and what they do, I've sort of been anti-NCAA. I feel like they've done a lot to rob the players and things along those lines. But this does sound, in theory, this is one of those altruistic, in theory, this sounds fantastic. But you just know that you just can't.
Yeah.
It can't happen. there's going to be scandal after. And again, how many scandals of your big programs do you have where you take them all down? And it's amazing North Carolina has avoided as many penalties as they have at this point.
I know.
Speaking of NCAA.
It is dragged on forever.
Right.
I don't know. There's a number of issues. One and done is not 1 year and done. What it really is one semester. Because if you go to school in the fall and you make your grades, you're eligible for the second semester. Now, whether you go to school in the second semester or do anything is irrelevant because you're eligible. So you can go to school the first semester, get a 0.0, a Bluto, John Belushi Animal House grade point for the second semester, but you're still eligible because when that grade point comes to bear, it doesn't matter because you're already gone.
Right. And does the NCAA, does it only count the semester you're in school, or does it also count the second semester?
Well, it counts the year, so I'm sure they're not quite doing that, but I'm sure there's some guys that have done that.
Well, I know, without calling out any particular schools, but there's a lot of classes you can take. I literally took a class freshman year called World of Wonder, and it was a 2-semester, 2-credit class. And at the time, it was a little bit like the NCAA. It seemed like it had altruistic intentions. It was a class to sort of let you learn about what majors were available in school. But to say that it was anything other than just an easy A, it was an easy A. You took that little test that told you what your aptitude is, and you talked about other majors and what majors you'd like to have. And
Did it help you?
No. You wrote a 1-page paper explaining what major you thought you'd be into.
And what did you find out? What was your major you thought you'd be into?
I think at that point it might have been law.
Okay.
But that was
how that turned out.
And we also saw how much I learned about law in that class, because by the time I took a law class junior year, which took a while to get to one of those, I still thought it was going to be a little bit like TV law, which is, I know, naive on my part, but that's a whole other issue.
Yeah.
But again, like you said, this looks like it could be a disaster.
Yeah, I just don't, I know they want to reform and I know they want to do some things, but this is just, I just don't see how do you enforce it? And how do you create, are you gonna have the major that's always been talked about for athletes, majoring in how to become a professional athlete?
Right.
You can have a pre-law, pre-professional athlete, and that way you learn how to balance a checkbook and hire an agent, and those are your courses. I don't know if that would happen. It's a travesty, but what we have now is a travesty because we don't do a great job of preparing the general public to go to college.
Right.
And we do a worse job of preparing athletes to go to college. So it is what it is.
Yeah, those life skills just seem to be missing. I knew a little bit about Latin and calculus coming out of high school, but I didn't quite understand credit cards and the pitfalls of credit cards.
And I had a class with Dexter Manley when I was in grad school, and he came the first day and the last day. And I think somebody told me I know there was a 60-minute special on that he couldn't read when he left Oklahoma State. He never graduated from Oklahoma State.
Right.
His eligibility was exhausted. And I'm sure a lot of people are exhausted from dealing with Dexter Manley on the field and off the field.
And again, whether it's human nature or not, it seems like, bending the rules, especially the NCAA rules, just seems inevitable at every single step. And this one seems like it's a pitfall for worse bending than normal.
Yeah.
Again, I think if, an alumni happens to have a job for somebody's mom, which is probably happening
sure
every single year, that there's a big recruit. I mean, on some level, that's fairly harmless.
Well, I've always advocated that they should pay athletes. But I've also advocated that, you know what, call it what it is. If I'm bringing you here to play football, that's your job.
Right.
So I've always advocated that I'm going to pay you while you're here, and I'm not going to expect you to go to school. But when you're done with your eligibility and you find out you're not going to play in the NFL or the NBA, that's when you need that college degree. And that's when you're actually ready for that college degree. So I would just let you play, exhaust your eligibility, and then give you the scholarship, which I know is going to drive some people crazy that I'm even saying that. But to me, it's just logical.
It does.
You don't realize what you don't have until you need it.
Right. And to be an athlete and just to be almost anything in this world, you have to have that sort of undying faith that I'm going to make it.
You can't question it.
You have
to believe you're going to be successful, and there's no doubt about it, and you have tunnel vision, and you have to have that tunnel vision if you think you're going to make it to that level. But once the vision is altered by a knee injury or a scout telling you you're too slow or it just doesn't work out,
you're never going to see that.
But that's an issue. All right, what else should we talk about today?
Well, I did see the article about the NFL refs. They have asked that the NFL not ask them to call penalties on celebrations.
I think that's a good idea.
Because they basically said, we have enough on our shoulders that when somebody scores an 80-yard touchdown and they're allowed to do, 1, 2 thrust if you're Antonio Brown. But the third thrust, all of a sudden that's a flag. Like, it just becomes this whole, judgment call. And they basically said, if you want to do it, leave that for fines off the field. You can review them on Monday. You can send out the fines, and you can say, Antonio Brown, you should have only thrusted 3 times. You thrusted 4. Yeah. Now that's a fine.
I just think that the baseline should be, since you got a lot of kids watching, nothing sexually suggestive and nothing taunting or demeaning to the other team.
Right.
But I'm fine. If you want to use a prop, go to it. You use football and roll the dice, I'm great with that. You want to slam dunk on the goalpost, I'm great with that. Whatever you want to do, I'm fine with. I mean, how often do people score touchdowns?
It's rare.
It's rare. And I mean, you have to celebrate that. And I think the fans want to celebrate it too.
Yeah, if you're running back and you have 8 touchdowns, you had a great year.
Yeah.
And I've always been a big proponent of the fan that likes to yell, act like you've been there before.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people haven't.
No.
Most people in the world have never been there, so it's not even for them to judge. But I mean, there's a lot of NFL players. That's your dream on you finally score a touchdown, and that should be.
I love Antonio Brown, but he does take it too far. That's what I'll say.
He does, but I think as we talked about last week, the more he did that got him almost more attention than 5 straight seasons of over 100 catches and everything. I mean,
probably so.
You have to put yourself in that national spotlight, and unfortunately, great play doesn't always put you where you need to be. Great play gets you,
Yeah, the camera was not going to come off Antonio Brown when he crossed the goal line.
No.
You were going to wait. It was like Barney. What's Barney's real name? Dougie Hauser?
Doogie Howser?
Yeah, what's his real name?
Neil Patrick Harris.
Neil Patrick Harris. He'd be like, wait for it, because you know it was coming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, the talking head shows that are so popular on Fox and ESPN and everywhere else, they're not going to spend a 10-minute segment talking about, 7 catches, 101 yard, and a touchdown.
No, they're going to say, have you seen this?
Have you seen this?
Or here's our video clip on SportsCenter AM or whatever it is. Yeah, it's we've created the monster. We got to live with it.
Right. Because, Antonio Brown got more press coverage, I think, for his live tweet or his live video of the locker room, which, again, he's admitted was stupid and he's taken enough heat for that. But he got more coverage for that than he did for 3 or 4 consecutive All-Pro seasons.
Agreed.
And that's a priority. Obviously, if that didn't get the eyeballs, if that didn't get the ear holes, that wouldn't be we'd be publishing, but that's what we're looking at. So,
well, draft coming up. So I saw today, as I was reading the USA Today, that they think that the draft is going to be influenced by a lot of trades.
That's what they're saying. But from what I hear, everybody outside of the Browns, and even the Browns, want to move down.
Yeah.
Because apparently this is a pretty loaded draft.
All right, so how many quarterbacks can be taken in the first round, Jason?
I think 4. I think you're going to get the kid from North Carolina, Trubisky. I think Deshaun Watson. People seem to be loving this Mahomes guy. A Brett Favre who can fire the ball downfield. Yeah. And then I think, Kaiser has a shot. Quarterback is such a valuable position. And then you've got guys like, again, you never know the hyperbole in the first couple weeks, or in the couple weeks leading up to draft.
No, everybody's flying.
Because everybody's
confusing
everybody. Like I know Josh Dobbs. He's now getting compared to Dak Prescott and Tom Brady. An incredibly cerebral quarterback who was surrounded with inferior talent. And that if he gets a chance in the NFL, he's going to really shine.
Yeah, how they describe Jake Cutler, too.
But I don't think he got the cerebral Dak Prescott, Tom Brady kind of love. So
I'm going to say 3, and the 4th quarterback will go in the first 10 picks in the second round. That's what I think. So who the Steelers going to take? What's your gut tell you?
My gut tells me it's going to be some cornerback I've never heard of.
Okay.
That I'm not really familiar with. I really like the kid at Youngstown State, the pass rusher, Derek Rivers.
Mm-hmm. So if you could make the pick for Steelers, who would you pick?
Assuming the draft goes as all the pundits are saying it's going to go, where obviously Myles Garrett doesn't somehow fall 30 spots in the draft, right, which is highly unlikely. I really like, like I said, I really like Derek Rivers.
Okay. So here's where you heard it. That's Jason's sleeper pick.
Well, I don't know how much sleeper it is. He's rising up draft boards, as they say.
Okay. All right.
And then obviously I really like that tight end from Miami too. I can't pronounce his name, and I don't want to attempt to destroy it on my air, but
I'm not going to attempt it either.
David, no.
Yeah.
But I read it. Again, and this becomes a Steven Adams situation where I knew he was considered a first round prospect. He had really good combine numbers, mm-hmm, and then I happened to be scrolling over the sports sites like I do every day, and I read an article about him and his family, and I saw an interview with him, and now I really like him as a person.
Okay.
So I've sort of elevated him up, and again, maybe he will turn out to be this great tight end, maybe he won't, but his personality and his family story have all of a sudden brought me to this next level of like, man, I like that guy. He'd make a good Steeler.
Mm. Well, we'll all see Thursday night, right?
Thursday night.
Thursday night's round 1.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I guess the last thing I'll bring up, and I'll bring it up as carefully as possible. I'm a huge Bill Simmons fan.
Okay.
I followed him as the sports guy on page 2. I loved him on ESPN. I loved him on Grantland. I subscribe to 4 or 5 different Ringer podcasts. And he's a big advocate for James Harden for MVP. To the point where he is, he makes sure that Russell Westbrook's rebounds are pointless rebounds and selfish rebounds. That he's a stat chaser.
I don't know what a pointless rebound is.
Well, they're rebounds that other people should have gotten, but they let Russell Westbrook have them to pad his stats, apparently.
I watched last night. You brought this up. I watched last night. And the only time I could see something was when it was a missed free throw, and everybody on both teams took off, and Russell Westbrook was going to want to get the rebound. Is that what he means by a rebound like that?
Apparently.
Well, somebody has to get it.
Somebody has to get it. And again, it's the situation too where if it's a long rebound,
yeah,
and it's a defensive rebound,
yeah,
and you're Steven Adams and you're Russell Westbrook. If you're Steven Adams, if you get that rebound, the first thing you're doing is throwing an outlet pass to Russell Westbrook. Yep. So why not just skip a step?
In theory, then that could speed up the offense.
That speeds up the offense, gets everything going. That's my theory on it.
All right, so finish your commentary on the Bill Simmons thing.
And again, I don't want to sound like I'm, potentially saying that his votes are influenced. But at the beginning of the year, he does a lot between Cousin Sal and Joe House. He ducks a lot of gambling, which I enjoy because I think gambling stories are fantastic. I love Vegas. It's wonderful. But one of those guys has money on James Harden for MVP. And it seems like there's potential
to influence
people. He's got...
There's no question he influenced people.
Right. He's got, like I said, I've been a fan for over a decade. I subscribe to just about every Grantland or the Ringer podcast. Sorry, not Grantland anymore. And, I vehemently disagree on the MVP race. Like I said, I wouldn't be upset if James Harden won it.
No, I won't be upset either.
I mean,
I wouldn't be upset if LeBron won. I wouldn't be upset if Kawhi Leonard won.
Right. I think all 4 of those guys put up MVP caliber seasons.
And I wouldn't be upset if Isaiah Thomas won.
And you can argue, argue numbers back and forth. But like I said, he's been the one that really pushes that, of the 2 lineups, that Russell Westbrook has the next 3 or 4 best players of the, after you get through the top 2, that you would take Steven Adams and Victor Oladipo and maybe one other player.
Nobody watched that game yesterday would agree with that.
No. But again, I don't want to sound like I'm questioning his credibility, but I'm wondering, like, if you're a guy that has a vote, like, I realize a lot of columnists have votes. Mm-hmm. But when one of your columns is about gambling, and even if it's not you saying you put money on so-and-so to win the MVP, but if your friend and your podcast co-host says, hey, I put money on, my Vegas bet this year is for James Harden to win MVP. And then you're vehemently just all about the James Harden, whether or not you feel it's for basketball reasons or not.
Great.
I just think it's a cloudy.
Thank you. That's a perfect word. It's cloudy. And you don't want it to be cloudy.
No. And again, like I said, I listen to Bill Simmons a couple times a week. I could argue he's one of my inspirations for being on a podcast. Okay. So it's not, it's how hard he argued, and then going back and listening to that old podcast where the gambling came in. It sort of makes me just...
Yeah. No.
It's cloudy. Like I said, it's cloudy.
It's cloudy.
Leave it at that.
I agree with you.
And that was pretty much the week. I know nobody wants to talk about NHL playoffs, but the Penguins are up 3-0, which is very exciting for me.
It is very exciting. I'm a little disappointed in the Blue Jackets. They had a really good year. And they seem to be fading fast if they're not already done. It's
true.
I like watching David McDavid kid for Edmonton. It's a good story.
Great story. The young guys in Toronto look good.
Yeah, it's interesting. The NHL playoffs look pretty intriguing to me. They really do.
The NHL is a nice... They've got a lot of guys like Ovechkin, Crosby, the established guys, Malkin, across the board. And then you've got this nice crop of young players that are in their league right now. They're in a very good place as far as... If you're a hockey fan, I don't know what it takes to get other people to watch hockey.
Let's talk about baseball for a minute. We both like Jameson Taillon.
I do.
He's got an ERA under 1 after 3 starts. And he's pitched really, really well. And he looks like a number 1 starter to me. He looks like everything the Pirates have been waiting for and more. In fact, he's much more impressive to me than Garrett Cole. And he's got a waiting. So he's one of my dark horses for a Rookie of the Year kind of a thing. As is the Pirates' Adam Frazier, who looks amazing, batting .343, playing a number of positions, playing the super sub role, and really looking like, it's invigorating to watch somebody that enjoys the game as much as he does. It's been real refreshing for me to watch that.
Indeed. And despite the fact that ESPN put an article up today saying that McCutcheon's slow start is a warning sign, which was put up at 1:52 today.
And then we watched him get his hit in his 8th straight game tonight.
His 8th straight game with a hit.
Hey, if that means that I got to watch out for him with an 8-game hitting streak, I'm fine. I'll watch out for him.
Right.
My food section, I told you I was going to Kansas City. Kansas City is barbecue. But I've always wanted to go to a place called Stroud's, which is famous for pan-fried chicken. So I am going to make my debut tomorrow night at Stroud's Restaurant in Kansas City. And then I hope to hit Kansas City Joe's, formerly Oklahoma Joe's.
Right.
As that's probably my favorite barbecue right now in Kansas City, although Q39 is exceptional. Jack Stacks is exceptional. I love Gates. I love all barbecue in Kansas City.
Kansas City style barbecue is
probably my favorite style barbecue. So I hope to hit. I definitely hitting Stroud's. I'll definitely hit one of the barbecue spots, and always something to look forward to as I go spend some time with Sporting KC. And one of the things I tweeted out this morning was, if you ever see any clips on ESPN of fans at MLS games, they're really passionate and excited. I saw a clip from the Orlando game, and when I looked at it, I said, I got to give the MLS credit, because they have it figured out. Their fans have captured the spirit of the game and the passion of the game, and really are showing why the MLS is coming on like gangbusters, and why there's multiples of 10 cities looking to get an MLS franchise. You can just see it all unfold. It's a really healthy, exciting thing to see.
Yeah, they have very passionate fans. You got the songs that they sing. They've taken a lot of, because you watch European soccer, world soccer, and it's a non-stop singing and hollering and just...
And pretty soon we'll have hooligans.
And hooligans. And again, if you're a kid and you get taken to your first Orlando City game.
Yeah.
And there's everybody dressed in purple.
Yeah.
And they're singing songs. And it's this whole,
you belong. It's
you
a
belong.
Community. It's a tribe. It's your tribe.
You get to learn the song. You get to sing along. That's a great way to build your brand for the future.
No, I've been really impressed with it. Really, really impressed with it. And it's going nowhere but up.
I still can't get into the game on the field.
Neither can I. But I appreciate the business model. I appreciate the passion the fans have for the game. And I'm sure that people are watching and saying, why can't we have that in our sport? And one of the reasons is because it doesn't have TV timeouts and commercial breaks. It has flow. It's the only sport played in the U.S. that has flow. Enjoy it. Love it. Go for it.
It's the 45 minutes plus penalty minutes, and that's straight through. Then you get a halftime break, and then it's the end of the game.
Yep.
No commercials, no stoppage.
Beautiful thing.
And again, as much as I don't enjoy watching it in general, soccer highlights are fantastic.
Yeah.
But
you gotta wait too long to get a highlight.
You gotta wait too long to get a highlight. And I always think about the Simpsons episode where soccer comes to Springfield, and they have Kent Brockman, and they have him and the Spanish announcer next to each other. And Kent Brockman is watching. He's like, center to the fullback back to the center, back to the fullback, back to the center. Center holds it, and then they cut over to the Spanish announcer. He's like, holds it. And just the excitement that comes from and watching the exact same thing. And again, it's
funny.
It's funny. It's one of the most. I mean, it's the Simpsons, so they're pretty brilliant. But yeah.
All right. Well, let's sign off for this episode.
Okay. Once again, not to sound like we're begging, but in order to keep this going, we do need to have some help. And the best way to help us is to go to Patreon. And in case people haven't known that, it's Patreon, patreon.com, and just look up Sutton Impact Family Style. And we have a lot of different ways that you can help the show. You can become different sorts of family members, cousins, brothers, sisters. You can be part of our inner circle, which we would love to have.
Somebody wants to write a big check, you can be the godfather.
You can be the godfather of our show, which would be fantastic. We'll open up a whole new tier for you.
That's right.
If you have any sort of products you want us to show.
Or talk about in a positive light.
We would love to get into that business as well.
All right. So we're signing off. We'll talk to you next week. Take care. Thanks for